This is Danny Flexon here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined by my good friend and Sky Sports Head of Boxing Development, Adam Smith. Adam, how are you?
I'm good, Danny. Just recovering from what was an intense build-up and obviously an electric fight night on Saturday. And yeah, tired really. Yesterday was pretty full on as well. Obviously, lots of reflection, reaction, and yeah, still reading the papers this morning, looking online, and yeah, it's been an incredible story and a sort of wonderful end to it. And yeah, to be honest, couldn't really be happier with how Saturday went. And we look forward now to another busy week off to Glasgow for Josh Taylor and Jack Catterall, another huge fight, this one on Sky Sports. So yeah, it's been quite a month.
Now, before we talk about the specifics of Saturday night, you've been with Boxer in this collaboration for what, 8 months now, I believe, around that. And you've got this massive event, easily the biggest in British boxing so far this year. How delighted are you with how well it's gone in such a short space of time?
Yeah, I think it was the end of May, early June. So yeah, 7-8 months now that Ben and I have been working very tightly together, and the Boxer and Sky Sports teams obviously knitted and united for this new era of boxing on Sky. Matchroom was a great partnership, and when Eddie went, we had to obviously go again. And Top Rank have given us a great 4-year deal. We worked with them this week with Josh Taylor, and yeah, but Boxer and Sky have really got on well. They're a fantastic team. Really enjoying working with Ben. He's very bright. He's very entrepreneurial. He's different. He's passionate. He's got some wonderful ideas, and I think he wants to really change the way people look at boxing and think about the fighters, and obviously put on the best fights and best shows he and we can together. But we've aligned very quickly. We've worked behind the scenes on a great deal of fighters and who we should have and who we can have, and obviously it's that's a building process. And as I keep telling him, it's build. But yeah, we're delighted with what we're doing at the moment. February, as I said, has been an incredible month. Chris Eubank, Liam Williams in Cardiff. Then the massive Kell Brook event, and then Taylor and Catterall, and more shows in March and April, and adding to that the sort of the great global ones we get from Top Rank too. And yeah, it's really pleasing. I think it's probably happened quicker than we thought. I expected maybe to be, putting on the really big nights maybe in the summer or later on in the year, but to do it within 6-7 months is fantastic, and it just shows Ben and Boxer's ambition. And it shows how much we want to be behind boxing and how important it is for our business, our sports business. And yeah, I couldn't be more delighted. And I think Saturday was a really big night for both companies. And yeah, I think I hope everybody really enjoyed it as much as we did.
Now, when it was first announced, Kell Brook, you had the skeptics, which I guess was expected. Oh, it's too late. We won't be tuning in. I think even Ben was a little bit kind of confident, but a little bit of healthy apprehension about how it would do. And then it's come to fight week, and it seems like that's all anyone was talking about. Absolutely everyone was glued to the build-up. Did it surpass even your own expectations?
I think you and I know what a big fight Kell Brook has been for so long. And yes, there's a great deal of people, including ourselves, I think, who felt it was probably a little bit too late. 4 or 5 years, who knows? I mean, they've been talking about this since the mid-late 90s, and I'm of the opinion that we've missed out on so many good fights that have never got made. Mayweather and Pacquiao took ages. Lewis Bowe never happened. Witter Hatton never happened. Calzaghe Froch never happened, and many others. And I think there's a great deal of the middleweights with Macklin and Barker and Andy Lee and all that never got matched up. And I think it's a shame when those things happen. And when we had the opportunity, even be it late on in their careers, to make it, I mean, I was massively for it. And I was approached, and Ben worked really hard on getting, the contracts over the line. It was very, very difficult, and it took a while. So yeah, I think, yeah, there was the initial reaction of, oh, it's too late, and there has-beens, etc. But I knew how much that this fight meant to the pair of them, particularly as fighters. Kell's been haunted by this. He's been chasing Amir for nigh on his whole career. And Amir's always told me he wants to fight Kell Brook. It just didn't really make sense at other times when he was crossing the pond and taking on the big, stateside gigs. And I think that they needed each other as much as we needed it, really. So it all sort of came at the right time. And I was buoyed by the fact that they went off and got themselves into exceptional shape, which proved to me that they've wanted this fight and they need this fight. And yes, there's money on the table, but both of them have made a lot of money over their careers. And I think this was much more about pride and about giving something to the fans and making sure that, they didn't retire without having had this fight, because everywhere you go and everywhere you went, it was, would it be Khan, would it be Brook? And I think their names have been synonymous with each other. So I always thought it'd be big. And even, I think even at this stage in their journeys, it's a great story. I mean, there was the hatred, there was the different styles, there was the fact that both of them are probably, or seemed certainly before the bell on Saturday night to be round about the same sort of time level in their career. Obviously, it proved, that Kell was by far the better man on the night. But I think, and at many times it's been, would it be Khan or would it be Brook at various different sort of segments through the narrative. I just thought once it was announced and once they were in training camp and, I kept in regular contact, I was so worried that one of them would pull something or there'd be some sort of injury because, of course, Amir had been out maybe 3 years, Kell had been out a while as well. And you worry, it was almost like get them, taped up and make sure they get them into the ring. But they just went above and beyond. They wanted to be physically and mentally perfect for this fight. And I think you saw that on the scales. I think you saw that with the needle, some of it, unpleasant and wrong in the build-up, which we dealt with on the Thursday at the press conference, particularly, which was bang out of order. But, there was a lot said. There was a lot resting on this for their whole legacies. And I, for one, knew that if Kell had lost this fight, he would have taken it really badly. And because he'd been chasing Amir for so long, whereas Amir, I thought, okay, he loses this, it will be a real blow, but I always thought that he probably could handle it better. And look, did it surpass our expectations? I think we showed again what we can do on Sky Sports box office and the platform that we have. Sky Sports News were night and day. Behind the ropes, the gloves are off. Huge shoulder programming, digital and social is stronger than ever. And you're right, it was everywhere. When people were calling me up who don't really take an interest in boxing, the casual fans had crossed over. And that's always a great sign that it's ripping through into the public. And, it's just really good that after all the hype, we got a cracking fight as well, because sometimes when that bell goes, you don't know what's going to happen and you don't get as good as you would wish for. But as I always say to the team, there's nothing you can do on the belt. When the bell goes, it's up to them. And the gladiators, the fighters that we all revere and that we all look up to, it's up to them to give what they can. And even though obviously Kell won decisively and it was rather one-sided, it was still an incredibly intense and crackling fight because of Amir's bravery and the fact that he just refused to wilt and it was very much carried out on his shield. And then you had the respect at the end between the pair. And I thought the post-fight press conference was one of the most endearing, real, humbling experiences I've ever been in after a fight. And I know them, and I know this hatred was real, and I know that it's been, nipping away at them all the time. And to sort of the fact that just after less than 6 rounds of completed boxing, they can gain that respect for each other, they can almost share spirits in there is something this sport is incredible for. And I wondered if there would be that respect, whether it would take months, years, but actually I think Amir literally couldn't give any more. He tried to stay in as long as he could. Kell was fantastic, and we had a definitive outcome. There was no controversy, there was no complaints, there was just a really solid, competitive in some ways, intense in many other ways fight, which lived up to all the hype, all the expectation, and was as good as it would have been at any point that they fought. So yeah, it was a fabulous night, and it's one that we're very proud of. And as I said to Ben afterwards, the fact that the two of them were so respectful is just wonderful for boxing and for the young coming through, that they can see, okay, you can have needle, you can have angst, you can have, bad words, and you can get fired up for a fight. But when it's all said and done, it is a sport. And it was really humbling to see that afterwards.
Now, the TV numbers we won't hear, we might never hear, but if we hear any rumours, it won't be for a while. You obviously get an earlier steer. Are you satisfied with what it achieved commercially?
Yeah, very much. I mean, we won't know the numbers for some weeks. That's the way it works. And no, we don't sort of, crow about them as, I think we know that Mayweather Pacquiao and a lot of the AJ fights, Mayweather McGregor, there were some huge numbers in a lot of those fights. It's a Sky Sports box office event. It's the key for me is that customers enjoy it, that we had two big fights on Sky Sports, one still to come in February, and we wanted to make sure that this was a sparkling attraction. And of course, because it's a fight that, that is separate, is different, has been waited for, anticipated for so long, we felt it was a real box office event. And yeah, we're really pleased with business. Again, we won't know the full numbers for a while, but I think it was a very good night's work from everybody. I think people enjoyed it. And, hopefully when we go again with box office, it will be, it'll be for the right fight and the right sort of night. And it's been a while since we have, AJ and Alexander Usyk, and a few months later, Ben's first stab at it as well for Boxer. And I thought it looked, fantastic in the Manchester Arena, and they put so much work into it, Boxer. And they're young and they're an innovative company and they're great to work with. We really enjoy it. We love working with Matchroom too. This is a new era, a new chapter. It's business, and yeah, we're loving it. But I'm not one, as you know, Danny, to rest on any laurels. We look back at what went wrong. We look back at things we can improve on, and we'll do that, and we'll move forwards. And day by day, we'll get stronger and stronger with this partnership with Boxer and with Top Rank, and we'll prove why Sky is with the loyal platform, aren't we? With the platform that's been there for 30 years, and we've got incredible, wonderful history, and we haven't had everything, but we've had a great deal of the biggest and best fights and nights over those 3 decades. And I expect us to have many more for months and years to come.
Just on that note, can you tell us from the projections, closer to 500,000 or closer to 1 million?
I really don't know, Danny. That goes to the corporate. I would have thought the closer to half. I wouldn't have thought that it would be that big. I mean, that's probably heavyweights and AJ, and I'd have thought we'd be very happy with a good solid number. But as you say, we don't go into real detail about it. And I think we just know that it was a great event, a great show, and I'm sure the business will reflect that. But for us, it's about putting on great content, great nights, a great vibe, a great pre-fight sort of build up, and hopefully an amazing night of boxing. And it certainly is one that will long live in the memory. I think Manchester Arena seems to have a certain magic, that place, and with all the sort of hoo-ha of the gloves backstage and all the things, the contractual things that sort of Kell had to deal with, and we all had to deal with in many ways. It was just a relief getting them into the ring, and we had half an hour of incredible action and some fantastic humbling words afterwards. And I'm sure everybody, maybe bar the sort of hardcore Amir Khan fans, but even those would have had to have respect for Kell, and in the way that Amir carried himself afterwards as well, that everybody thoroughly enjoyed it. And the reaction that we've been getting in the last 48 hours has sort of said that people seem to have had a good time, and whether they watched it on television, whether they were there or they were reading about it, it's captured the imagination. And for me, that's really important. It's about rivalries, it's about narrative, it's about storytelling, it's about giving these incredible boxing characters a platform. And I think we at Sky have always done that well. We continue to work hard on finding ways we can do that even better and wider and deeper and more thoroughly, and obviously smarter as well. But yeah, I think we'll have done some solid numbers, but no, I don't think it's anywhere near the big figure you mentioned.
When Sky and Matchroom split last year, there were a number of skeptics out there who said, Sky Boxing is going to struggle now without that partner. Even after the deals with Boxer and Top Rank were announced, there were still people that weren't sure how you were going to get on. Add to that the fact that you've always been a proponent of getting Khan and Brook together to making that fight particularly. Do you take an element of personal vindication from how well it turned out?
You know me, Danny. I'm not an arrogant man. I don't have an ego. I'm just a guy that loves what I do, and I'm very lucky to be having done it for so long. And I've got an amazing team, and we've got a great content team, a great strategy team. We're working with great people, and you know, the brilliance often lies in what you don't see behind the camera. And I think that, yeah, not vindication for me. I love working with Eddie and Frank. I love working with Matchroom. We had some wonderful days, some wonderful nights. But when they made the decision to move to the zone, they left us with no choice but to go again, and go again in a different way. And of course, yeah, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, Sky finished in boxing, and you'll never do it without Eddie, etc." Well, you know, I started back in the mid-90s, and of course, we did have Matchroom then with John Wishusen and Barry, but we also had huge deals with Frank Warren, with Frank Maloney, with Mick Hennessy, with Ricky Hatton, and obviously that's just the UK. You know, we had deals with HBO, and lots of big fights with Showtime, and worked with the PBC and Top Rank. So, you know, we've always been very, very confident in our platform, and maybe now more than ever, the numbers that we're getting for the Premier League and the other sports, and obviously the huge other sort of content entertainment areas we have under the Comcast banner too. We were very confident, if quietly confident, that this would be, you know, a resurge, a rebuild, and that we would be successful. I don't think we gave ourselves a time that it's got to be done by December, it's got to be done by next summer. This is a work in progress. We've got 2 4-year deals, one with Boxer and one with Top Rank. It's partnerships. Todd DeBurse wanted to be with us for a long time. Ben Shalom has as well, in different ways. He's waited his turn, even though he's much younger, and he was prepared for this moment. And you know, together with John Wish and us, giving him sort of guidance and some experience too, I think we're developing really well. But no, I'm not one to talk about vindication or anything like that. You know, there's a huge amount to choose from out there. DAZN are doing a terrific job. Joe Markowski and his team, and Eddie at Matchroom, they're putting a lot of fights on. You know, Frank's had a great few weeks, hasn't he, with the big beard, and obviously with, you know, his deal with BT, and I'm sure, you know, shows are going to fly out from BT very soon as well. So yeah, and then there's Channel 5 and others. So there's lots of competition out there, and it makes us work even harder every day, and we concentrate on what we do, which is delivering the best content we possibly can, both before the fight and during it, to our customers, as part of obviously a wider sports output. And yeah, I never had any doubt that we'd come again, but I'm a little bit surprised that it's happened as swiftly as it has. But then again, we're working with some fantastic people, and everyone's very dedicated and passionate. There's a lot of boxing fans in there that just want to see really good fights, and they're constantly pushing us to strive and do better. So yeah, and getting back to your question about Kell Brook, I've always wanted Kell Brook. It's a personal fight. It's been a personal fight for Sky. I've known Kell since he was a 10-year-old boy in Brendan's gym, and I've known Amir since he was a teenager, and I very much feel like the Sky team have been part of their lives for a long, long time. So yeah, it was a strange one, actually, Danny. People were saying to me on the week, "Who do you want to win? Who do you think will win?" You know, I adore both of them, so I didn't. There's no one I want to win. I'm calling the fight, so obviously we stay neutral anyway. But there's no one I wanted to win. I was probably more worried if Kell had lost, just because of the personality he is and how he'd cope. But to be honest, I wanted them both to win. I wanted them both to win. I wanted them both to get out there safe and secure. And although we had to have a definitive winner and a loser, I thought the loser covered himself in absolute glory, bucket loads of courage. And so in many ways, they were both winners on the night. And I'm really pleased about that, because it has been personal. I know both of their families very well, and I'd like to know them long after they've retired, as they've been incredible advocates for British boxing. They've been 2 of our best fighters of the modern era, and thankfully we got them together, and it all worked out well.
It appears Khan has made the decision to retire. I think most people watching the fight and having watched his career as a whole would wholeheartedly support that decision. What do you feel, and it's going to be hard to sum up in a short space of time, but what do you feel is his legacy?
Well, first of all, it's Amir's decision. Him and his family have to sit down and make sure they feel absolutely right about retirement. I sat next to him at the post-fight presser. and he looked like he was at the end, and we had a little word together, and I think it is the right time to go. It's not our decision, of course, it's his. But I think he's got nothing. I said to him, "You've got nothing left to prove. You've been amazing for 20 years. You've given us some thunderous battles. You've been a unified world champion. You've come back from the brink. I mean, in that very ring in Manchester, from going from Bradis Prescott's the knockout defeat to a year later winning a world title at a different weight. I mean, he's silver medal in Athens, and of course he's transcended boxing in many ways. I don't think he should carry on, and but that's something for him and his family. He's got 3 beautiful children, and I hope to catch up with him much more socially in London in the years to come, and maybe he can come and do some work with us. And he owes us absolutely nothing. His legacy, I think Amir's been one of the most exciting fighters that we've had. Since you and I have been around. Everyone talks about the likes of Prince Nassim Hamid and David Haye and Carl Froch and all of that. Floyd Mayweather, as you know, is my greatest fighter for my generation. Joe Calzaghe, I'm a massive advocate of as well, and there's many others. But I think, where would Amir rank? I think Amir, incredible hand speed combinations, at his best, just a blurring, sort of almost like a freak, the way I think he threw sort of 5 punches a second at his peak, just overawed fighters. And I thought that was incredible. But also the fact that he elected to stay in the pocket and trade. And although he went down 12 times and actually not on Saturday night, which was quite surprising with the amount of punishment he took. I never sort of saw him as particularly chinny. He was, everyone sort of almost like took the mickey out of his chin. Whereas I think, a lot of the shots he sort of stumbles with, and maybe, the temple shots, and of course he was poleaxed by Prescott and by Canelo. No surprise there, really. But you look at the Danny Garcia fight, and he wanted to fight with him. So I think it's more that sometimes he made the wrong decision at the wrong time, and that his defenses were a bit too open. But that air of vulnerability, whether it was a weak chin or just a sort of a slightly open defense, was added to his excitement, didn't it? And I think Amir Khan, he'll certainly be remembered as a legend of British boxing. Maybe not global. He didn't win the big fights. He thought his best performance, certainly that we were involved in, was Devon Alexander. I think he was fantastic that night, almost punch perfect. I really enjoyed his fight with Marcus Maidana as well. He's got wins over Malignaggi and Zab Judah and Barrera. He's got some fantastic wins on his record. And there was a time where he looked pretty untouchable, and then he got beaten again, and I think the way he bounced back, actually, maybe his legacy will be the fact that he never gave up. He never listened to the critics. I remember people after the Bradis Prescott fight saying that's the end of Amir Khan. And look, he went on a long time. He did some great things in boxing. He's opened it up to a wider audience. He's used it as a platform to go and do other things in his life, and a lot of charitable stuff over in Pakistan, and the sort of celebrity stuff he's got involved in as well. And he's a very engaging guy. He's a very nice man, and I'll really miss him in the ring, because you just always knew that something was going to happen, some sort of thriller minute with Amir, whether it was good or bad for him. But I think that, on reflection of what happened on Saturday night and looking back at it, I'm sure he will call it a day, and he goes with our fondest memories and our thanks, and our love to him and his family. And
now, Kell Brook, I did my weekly vlog earlier today, and I very much supported the idea that he could join Amir Khan in retirement, just mainly on the basis, not that he's faded, he looked very good on Saturday night, but just on the basis that it's never going to get better than beating your arch rival in front of a packed house in Manchester. And he's not targeting world titles if he does go on anyway. He's looking at kind of, big events again, which is fine. But surely it can't get any better than beating Khan in that fashion. What's your view on Brook's future?
It's a really good question, and I think, like many others, I'm very split on it. I read Johnny Nelson's column this morning as he'd like to see Kell retire. And of course, he knows him better than most. Dave Cobble, who was sitting next to me on ringside on Saturday night, has known him forever. I mean, I have actually. We've all known him since he was a kid. So in many ways, it's a sort of protective thing with some of the fighters. And when you've known someone for 25 years, you want to make sure they live a lovely, happy life at the end of their career, because they owe us nothing. It would be a perfect time to go for Kell Brook to hang up the gloves and join sort of Lennox Lewis, Joe Calzaghe, Carl Froch, and others who sort of made that decision at the right time, or certainly a time that they thought it couldn't get any better. It couldn't get any better for Froch when, he laid out George at Wembley, and now they're doing sort of, chat shows together. Yeah, exactly. But let's not forget, Carl wanted to fight again. He wanted to fight Chavez Jr. He stood up at ringside when Kell fought Golovkin and eyeballed Golovkin. I told him to sit down and shut up. He was this side of the ropes now. So it doesn't leave a fighter, as we see with Ricky Hatton coming back and others. They just want that one more fight. So it's a really difficult choice. I spoke to Joe before he fought Roy Jones, and he was indicating to me then that would be his last fight. And I think with the early knockdown and the fact he won it but got through it and realized he probably wasn't quite what he was at his peak, and he was slipping slightly. I think that was brilliant. Same with Lennox. He had that really hard fight with Klitschko. Yeah, and Charlie came in at short notice, remember, but it was a really hard fight. Yeah. Exactly, and everybody was split about whether Lennox would go on to win it or whether Vitali would. But it sort of felt the right time. It's really interesting with Kell. I sat at the Pros Fight Press and I looked at him, and he didn't have a mark on him. He was fresh. He looked fantastic. He'd rolled back the years in many ways after an incredible camp. Can he get himself that up for something else? I mean, there's been bad blood with him and Chris Eubank Jr. That's an obvious possibility. He could fight Eubank Jr. at some sort of catch weight. Conor Benn's lurking around the scenes as well. He's in that mix. There's all the talk of Ben Eubank, or would Conor have fought Amir if he'd won? So there's lots of possibilities, domestically for him, and also there's still the opportunity possibly of winning another world title. With the performance on Saturday night against a Khan, okay, of course had slipped, but it was still what Kell did was pretty spot on. So it's a tough decision for him. I think it's one that he needs to think about. I think it's one that he shouldn't rush. I think he just needs to go back and spend some time with his family. He's had Christmas away and New Year away. He's left no stone unturned with this. It was burning inside him. And I don't think he could possibly get any more into a fight than the one with Amir Khan. So there's part of me, it's almost like, I remember Nigel Benn saying to me once, you might remember this as well, Danny, I've got the angel on one side and the devil on the other. The angel's saying to me one thing and the devil's the other. I think that's a bit like Kell's choice now. But who is the angel and who's the devil? Is it angelic to go out now on top, where you've proved yourself? As he said, he can sleep peacefully at night. He knows he's beaten his arch rival. But then he's got 3 daughters. He's a prize fighter. He's looked very good. Maybe he can have 2 or 3 other big nights and big paydays for his family's future when he's boxing as well as he is. So I don't know who the devil is really, because he looked so good on Saturday. And I think that he just needs to take a bit of time, talk to the people closest to him. And I think he'll probably fight again. That's my sort of gut feeling. But I can understand the people that are saying, let's go now. Both go now. It's done. It's finished. And they can both have really lovely lives ahead. But fighters are strange creatures, as we know. They love the limelight. They love the challenge. It's their business. It's what they do. And I think when they're retired, they know there's a great deal of life ahead of them. So they want to make sure that they do it at the right time. And I think, as Amir said, he didn't want boxing to retire. He wanted to retire from boxing. So I think that might well be his call now. Whereas with Kell, I'm not so sure. I'm not sure he's ready yet. But in a perfect world, going to the sunset now. But then again, a couple of years after Carl Froch beat George Groves, weren't we all hoping he'd fight Golovkin or Chavez? Or we're the fans. We want that, but we also want the health and safety of the fighters. And I think Amir realised that on Saturday night. He can't keep taking this sort of punishment, and to live the nice future he's got and enjoy the money he's made, and obviously do a lot of other great things in his life. And I think he went out. Remember Chris Eubank at the end of his career when he was losing but going out in a fantastic way and just pleasing the fans. I mean, Amir was just, you cannot criticise for him one moment for Saturday night. He stuck with it beyond the call of duty, and that's in many ways a good way to go out. For Kell, not so sure he will, but I can see the tough decision there.
Now we move on to this week. Josh Taylor, Jack Catterall up in Scotland. I'm sure that'll be another great and memorable event. Something I have to ask you, because it's been discussed a lot on social media in the last few days. You at Sky and Top Rank as well are very much behind Josh Taylor now. But in the past, to this date, why do you feel, and there's probably myriad factors, why do you feel his star power, at least to date, isn't commensurate with his accomplishments? Because he is probably Britain's best pound-for-pound fighter.
I'm a massive advocate and admirer of Josh Taylor. I have been since he was an amateur. We've had him on infrequently on Sky, not enough. We spent some time together on a Frampton week out in Vegas when I think Carl fought Leo Santa Cruz for the second time, and Josh was on the card there, and we spent a great deal of time, sort of chatting, sort of behind the scenes, and he actually wasn't great that night. It wasn't one of his better performances, but I've always admired him. We had him back for Regis Prograis, which was a fantastic fight, an incredible night. And I think he's a terrific fighter, and I think he's an unsung hero and one of the best in the world, let alone Britain. The Ramirez win was brilliant, and I was gutted that we didn't have it. But so we can't have everything, and there's a lot of contractual things as well. So look, when I heard that we had a chance of doing this deal with Top Rank and Josh would come to us, that was a massive thing for me. I believe that Josh can become a superstar in the sport. I think that he's a real character. It's fantastic sort of going back to Scotland. He's got such a passionate following, but I want him to become a big name outside the trade. It reminds me of when Carl Froch came to Sky for the second time. We had him in the early days, and he went off around the world, and probably didn't get the general publicity that he should have done for some of those incredible wins in the Super Series. But he came back, and at the end of that, he joined us, and he went on Sky Sports a few times, and obviously built into a box office star on the back of the Boutte win, etc. And I think I see that with Josh. I see now the opportunity for people to really see him. And as you see for our record-breaking figures for the Eubank fight on Sky Sports, I'm sure we're going to get really nice figures next week as well. I'm sure everyone wants to see him. And let's not forget Jack Catterall here, who's undefeated, who's got his big opportunity. And he's going to give it absolutely everything to try and take the super welterweight treasure away from Josh. So Jack is not without a chance, and Josh will have to be at his very best. But I think Josh is special. There's some special fights and fighters out there for him. One of those we spent a week with in Manchester, Terence Crawford, and he told me he'd love to fight in the UK. So there's great things ahead of Josh. He's in a really good weight class. He can go up, obviously, and try and become a champion of welterweight. And I think that this is the opportunity to really see what he's got. And I really hope, he's rocking at 10 stone, that if he gets through Jack Catterall, he'll keep busy, and we will be able to, try and sort of utilize our arsenal, our platform to make Josh the real sort of crossover star that he deserves to be, because he's got the talent, he's got the ability. And if he keeps focused and keeps, sustained with his belief, he could go a very, very long way. And I think we're getting him, okay, maybe again, a little bit too late, but we're getting him at a time where we've still got time to make that difference for him, and hopefully give him a really good 3 or 4 years.
Do you think that's been the issue to date then, that he hasn't had a consistent broadcast partner and a consistent promotional entity to back him? He's kind of gone between different people and different shows.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because boxers, we talked about Amir earlier, and Amir wasn't on Sky all the time. He chopped and changed, and sometimes fighters have to do that. They have to. It's a selfish business. It's a brutal business, and you have to make the decisions that you feel is right. I like fighters who stay on a platform and can be built, and I think that now we've got hold of Josh. As I said, when he defends his super lightweight title on Saturday in front of a massive crowd in Scotland, I think people, that watch Sky Sports and have watched the football and can cross over that audience who may not know Josh will see him. And provided he keeps doing his thing in the ring, I've said to him, look, Jack Catterall's a dangerous fighter. If Jack wins, suddenly things change. But if Josh Taylor can win on Saturday night and look really good doing it, and you've put him in front of a big Sky audience, because there's no better platform in the UK. There's many other great promoters and broadcasters and streaming services and everything else, from DAZN to BT to Channel 5 to everything. But fundamentally, Sky Sports, we believe, is the platform to be on, with the support system we have with Sky Sports News, who are going to be up there in Glasgow all week, with the digital and social output. And I believe that we've got the opportunity, provided Josh keeps doing his thing in the ring, and Todd and I and the teams will chat about how we go forward with Josh. But if he wins on Saturday night, it should be the start of building him into becoming a crossover star. And that's something that's really exciting, because we haven't done that in a while. And I think that Josh has got all the ingredients to be that person. Certainly has the pure talent and the excitement in a ring. That's a massive box ticked. But I think also he's got plenty of other he's an interesting character. He's obviously he's part of a Scottish boxing line of history, which is hard and different, and we love going north of the border and those passionate fans. And yeah, I can't wait. And I think he wants to fight in New York and America too, but I like to keep him for a while on this time zone, so people can really get to see him and enjoy him. And then we'll go hopefully from strength to strength, but nothing will happen if he doesn't get past Jack Catterall. This is the nature of the business, as we know.
Brilliant. Well, Adam, I've kept you long enough, especially in February, which is ridiculously busy for you this year. But really appreciate your time, and look forward to the Sky show on Saturday.
Cheers, Danny. Speak soon.